As Meghan Markle joyfully made baby plans, her spare, Harry, was in London, tearfully telling how the evil British newspapers have made her life a misery. According to reports, the difficult Duchess is keen to add a third child to the Sussexes' oh-so-perfect family to blot out her disappointment over the plummeting fortunes of her weird online store as ever, which, to no one's great surprise, is failing to flog mundane domestic products at astronomical prices. Meghan, of course, insists that her booming business is a rip-roaring success, despite revelations over Christmas that the warehouse shelves were crammed with a staggering 572,000 unsold items. That's because she's going global, apparently, and in fact, said sources close to the former cable show actress, she has shifted 1 million jars of jam at $14 a throw. That's kind of hard to believe, but who are we to doubt her ladyship's word? Meanwhile, as Harry theatrically wept over his allegedly distraught wife's mauling by the media, images flashed through my mind of all those effervescent films and photos she constantly posts on Instagram. Sparkling scenes in which Meghan never appears to be one bit miserable. Rather, she always looks ecstatic in her sunny Californian paradise, posing next to the back of her kids' heads and grinning from ear to ear. Was her life a misery when she skipped through those Christmas trees, singing "Hey Ho" before preaching her mantra of bringing joy to all by presenting those unfortunate enough to be in her orbit with edible broccoli wreaths and shop-bought pretzels wrapped up in ribbons? Not as far as I could see. I speak of that bundle of TV euphoria with Love Meghan, which it is now 100% confirmed has been unceremoniously axed by Netflix after 2 terrible series and a woefully feeble festive holiday special that broke new ground in mind-numbing tedium. The Duchess is said to feel humiliated by her show's devastating cancellation. But over the past eventful week, for once in the Sussexes' one-sided Meghan-oriented relationship, all eyes have been on the dim Duke as he launched the latest of his long list of legal actions against the tabloids that he hates with a passion. While Meg monitored the proceedings at the gruesome twosome's Montecito mansion in the Sun, Harry cried semi-convincingly on the stand as he tore into Britain's Daily Mail, accusing its journalists of using nefarious methods to hack into information about his personal life and illegally invade his privacy. The Mail calls the royal renegade's allegations preposterous and false. The case continues. But during Harry's tear-stained 2-hour testimony, those in the courtroom were shocked by his appearance. At 41, he looks 10 years older. And as for his tragic losing battle against his rapidly increasing baldness, surely it's high time the fast-ageing prince waved the white flag and gave in to the bone-dome pate fate that afflicts so many of the British royal men. Desperately clinging on to his few remaining strands of ginger hair doesn't do Harry any favours. As writer for the London Times, Tom Peck observed, most Brits who move to California make their friends jealous when they pop back for the weekend looking a decade younger. Harry has somehow achieved the opposite. I have personal experience of this. Sadly, my youthful sun-kissed Los Angeles days are far behind me, but it's a thing. And it's definitely passing the scowling Duke by. Furrow-browed, narrow-eyed and on edge in court, he resembled a pugilistic pub prowler out to pick a fight. Why is it, one wonders, that the West Coast effect isn't working for haggard Harry? Why have his 5 years in America taken such a toll on the once dashing prince's good looks? The Times' Tom Peck has a theory. It's this: fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to wrinkles. Yep. If you want to look younger, put a smile on your face, memo to Harry. Forget your relentless war on the papers. a fruitless fight that in the end you will realise you cannot win. Have that kid. Be happy. If you throw away the troubles that clearly weigh so heavily on your shoulders, who knows? Maybe your hair will grow back. Miracles can happen. And that's the bald truth.
Well, Prince Harry has stepped in. Let's get reaction now from the editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths. Charlotte, a significant intervention from the Duke of Sussex.
Yeah, and it's, I suppose, to be expected, although the speediness with which he issued a statement I was quite surprised by, because I think if he was still in the royal family, he might have given it a little bit more time just to see if Trump was going to double down, which I think actually he is, or whether he might apologise, which he could also do. But then again, Harry is the voice of veterans, and he's got Invictus coming up in the UK next year, and he's planning a big event in July this year, which hopefully some royal family members might go to. So I think he very much thinks he is the voice of veterans. And of course, he did go to Afghanistan, and he is right to say he saw his own friends being hurt and injured in Afghanistan. So I actually don't really begrudge him. I think if he wants to talk about it, I think he can. He is a veteran, and it's not really for me, who's never been to Afghanistan, to kind of prevent somebody from wanting to speak out or react to Donald Trump. But I just think if he was a member of the royal family still, there would be a little bit more protocol, a little bit less hastiness to the manner with which he fired out that statement.
And of course, there is no love lost between Harry and the President of the United States, and that dynamic is difficult for the King, who must preserve the special relationship.
The King is in such an awkward position because he's got to go over to the States in July. If that still goes ahead, and he's been told to go there by Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer's kind of keeps using the King to preserve the special relationship. But then Keir Starmer yesterday came out and decided to put on his big boy boots and get all cross with Trump, which is something he's hardly done, really, and since Trump's become president. And now the King's going to have to be wheeled out, find a way to be diplomatically successful in the States, maintaining an air of sort of, I don't know, he's going to have to look a little bit cross with Donald Trump and somehow find a way to chastise him, I think, and sort of make a comment and address this issue, if he hasn't apologised by then, and maybe school him a little bit on history and what really went down. And that hasn't been helped by the fact that Harry issued this very strong statement. But then again, the King is well used now to distancing himself from Prince Harry and saying, look, he's my son, but he's not a working member of the royal family. So, his message is not my message. But I think privately, the King will, of course, be appalled by the comments, as everyone is.
As we are here at Talk, of course, like I said, incorrect, insensitive, wrong, heartless. And it's not uncharacteristic for the Trump to shoot from the hip in such a manner. But Harry's had a go at the president in the past, hasn't he, including mocking him on the Stephen Colbert show in the United States and implying that Trump is a divisive figure with some of his remarks on stage at Invictus. So this is a diplomatic issue. And as you say, the speed with which Harry has come out to attack Trump feels a little opportunist.
It feels, I suppose it is a bit opportunistic.
It's a bit hold my beer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just classic Harry because he reacts very strongly to things. And, we all reacted strongly to that comment from Trump. It was horrible and appalling. Yeah. But you just have to be so careful because, look, nothing that Harry said was particularly wrong. I mean, in fact, it was really good to recognise the 457 soldiers who were killed. But I just know him. I know his personality now, having written about him for so many years. It was just, it felt to me like a classic combustion, Harry firing off a message. And we all wish we could tell off Donald Trump and all sorts of other famous people when we want to. But when you're a normal citizen and not a political or royal family member, you can't really. He is using his fame to kind of chastise Donald Trump, because if all of us might want to tweet about Donald Trump, but it's not going to make national news, is it? And I just think he ought to be careful, really, about getting angry and then firing off messages like that.
Most definitely. Harry well. Of course, you're the editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, and you break some massive, massive royal stories and have done for many years now. What's your appraisal of Harry's performance in court as he sues the publishers of your newspaper, the Mail on Sunday? Oh, I think you can't answer that. Thank you very much. Careful, folks. We're going to plead the fifth on that one because, of course, it's an ongoing case. Charlotte, can I ask you also about an interesting intervention from Princess Anne regarding King Charles's treatment of Prince Andrew? What's the story there?
Yeah, this is such an interesting story I've been hearing for a long time now, which is that Anne is kind of on Team Andrew. She's the last remaining person on Team Andrew, because, of course, he's not even speaking to his daughter, Princess Eugenie, at the moment, or at least wasn't in the last few weeks. He'd been completely cut off by her. But Anne actually thinks he's gone too far. Her brother, the king, has gone too far, and taking away the prince and the house. And, actually the police took away his guns. And, what else? I mean, everything, really. He's just had every single thing stripped away from him. And Anne just is of the mind frame, I'm hearing, that, there's a bit of kicking a dog when he's down going on. It's kind of crossed over from fair and just punishment for his, I suppose, behaviour to actually going too far. And she's a bit worried about his mental health. And I think Edward is actually aligned with her on this. And I think she feels a little bit like the King and William slightly ganged up together and formed a very brutal crackdown on Andrew. And a lot of people will think, look, it's fair. He deserves it. But, at the moment, it is just allegations. And I think Andrew falls slightly on her mother's side. And the late Queen went to her grave believing that Andrew was innocent and it was all jolly unfair. So it looks like Anne might be feeling that way as well. And I have to say, I don't have a lot of sympathy for Andrew, especially not as a person, because I hear he's just an old, boorish, kind of not nice person. But it must be pretty savage not to be really speaking to your daughters, your ex-wife, your friends, being homeless, packing up everything you own. Obviously, he must be at a low ebb because he's had these guns taken away from him, which is often something GPs do when they think that you are depressed or, it will be dangerous for you to have guns in the house. So I just think perhaps it's time for the King to think, OK, I've done what needed to be done. I've done the fair thing. I've been firm but fair, but maybe now kind of give him a bit of an easier ride. That's how Anne feels anyway.
Well, indeed, it's surprising from a figure that's normally quite austere in her family matters, isn't she? She's no nonsense, Anne, but she's pulled rank on this one. Briefly, a couple of seconds if you can, Charlotte. Meghan Markle's Netflix show fails to reach the top 1,000 most watched list. We're not going to get series 3, are we?
No chance for series 3. She's now going to write film little kind of skits for Instagram to promote her as ever brand. So it'll be more of a kind of internet show, I suppose, with little clips instead. Maybe a holiday special, a summer special, or an Easter special.
OK. First of all, Meghan and Harry went to the Sundance Film Festival to promote their film Cookie Queens. It looked like the theatre wasn't a particular sellout. And this Cookie Queens is about Girl Scouts. They've produced this film. I mean, what is this all about? It's not exactly going to put that many bums on seats. They're not going to get crushed in the rush to see this. Why are they producing this weird little film?
Well, this is one of those projects that they swooped in at the last minute, threw some money at it and slapped their names on it as executive producers. When it comes to contribution, it's very little to none. But you're right. And also, I would stress, it's a way for Meghan Markle to be able to talk about herself on a red carpet, because during the press for it, all she wanted to talk about is how she was once a Girl Scout and how she's been an entrepreneur and a hustler from a young age. But they made an appearance at Sundance to promote
Which
this.
Which is in Utah, right? Park City, Utah, isn't it? Yeah.
Which is in Utah, to promote Cookie Queens. And despite that high-profile push of 2 former senior working royals that no longer work as members of the royal family, the film is being described as a misfire, another flop. The screening failed to sell out. There were nearly 150 empty seats when the lights went low, according to Page 6. And it wasn't until the lights dimmed that waitlisters were eventually allowed to take spots throughout the theater for the reserved high-priced Sundance pass holders that didn't show up. Those are the VIPs. Those are the people spending $7,000 for a pass. They always reserve seats for them. None of those guys showed up. So that's when the waitlist holders could slide in and take space in the theater. I think that gives you a bit of an idea of how uninterested these real Hollywood types are in Harry and Meghan, in their products. And for context, in the very same theater 24 hours earlier, the Invite premiere with Seth Rogen, Olivia Wilde, there were so many oversold seats that 100 people were turned away. So the fact that Harry and Meghan are not really seeing interest in this, you're not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Well, it's just it's not a very interesting sounding film, it's typical of them. But a lot of people saying, Kinsey, that it's kind of bizarre for Prince Harry to go from last week, you know, sobbing in court about how the tabloids have made Meghan's life a misery, which, by the way, was absolutely nothing to do with his lawsuit against the Daily Mail. Nothing to do with it. He just brought that in. So there he is sobbing about attacks on our privacy and how these people have made, these awful journalists have made our lives hell. You know, privacy. And then, you know, he's jet straight off to Park City for one of the world's biggest film festivals to promote a movie, you know, in a blaze of publicity. It's a kind of bizarre way to behave, isn't it?
Schmoozing with the 1% on red carpets, posing for photographs from the same photographers or the same type of. Remember Tom Bradby? He told Tom Bradby he gets PTSD every time he hears a camera clicking, and there's Harry on a red carpet at Sundance posing for photos with Meghan. Yeah, the hypocrisy if there's one thing that's consistent about the Sussexes, it's hypocrisy.
Yeah, indeed. And what about Harry generally? You and I have talked about this before, but, you know, we know what Meghan's up to. She's always this whirl of dervish-like activity, none of it coming to anything. But, you know, you can't fault her for constantly trying. You know, she's always trying to sort of fill her empty life up. So she's currently acting in a film, playing herself. You know, she's got plans for more podcasts. Her Allegedly. Her hopeless TV series with Love Meghan has been axed by Netflix, but that doesn't stop her dreaming of more television products. She's always trying. Meanwhile, Harry, nothing. You know, he goes up to Canada to make a speech to a bunch of real estate agents in the, you know, purely for money in Canada, obviously. Comes here.
About the death of his mother.
Yeah, he talks about the death of his mother. Says his mother, this is the life he's leading his mother would have wanted, really. Then he comes to Britain to launch these increasingly bizarre lawsuits against newspapers that won't ever come to anything. What is going on in his life? Is he really fulfilled with this strange existence, this strange life he's made for himself, basically sort of in the slipstream, in the shadow of this dervish-like woman who can't do anything right? Doing, you know, not very much at all. Is this what he really wants?
Well, they're describing this as a hit piece from Page Six, this new article that came out this week. Royal warrior to sideline spare. Prince Harry's uneasy new life in Hollywood. Spotlight crumbles. And in the article, one thing that the author says that I really agree with, based on the Vanity Fair piece that came out almost a year ago right now, American Hustle, is that Harry is completely content with Meghan being the breadwinner and being the stay-at-home dad. They say he rarely leaves the house, that he's completely content just hanging out with the kids and running the errands. I have friends that live in Montecito that tell me that it's Harry showing up for sports events. It's Harry doing drop-offs. Now, Meghan tells Jamie Kern-Lima that she's the queen of these things, but I understand that Harry is the one that is more out and about than Meghan is. He's also the one that's much more personable and will talk to people and is much friendlier than Meghan is. But yeah, I think the rent-a-prince route is what we're going to see in 2026. This huge debate that you and I have had over the last few months about this idea of Harry starting a business this year. What could he possibly do? He's all over the place and nowhere at all.
Yeah, I mean,
think
it could actually take the place of Meghan's business as ever, which, frankly, despite what she says, seems to be on its last legs. It will not survive, I don't think, for much longer. But there's a quote in this piece you're talking about, is in the New York Post, saying Harry's not really doing anything in America. It seems he is still very wrapped up in the past. Roger that, that's true. There have been rumours that Harry is starting a business, but he and Meghan don't have the best of track records. And they go on to say that they believe that the Sussex coffers are rapidly depleting, that they're running out of money. As ever, I don't think it's bringing anything in, and there's not much coming in from anywhere else. So financial problems?
Well, we know that they're spending $2 to $3 million on security alone, and it's my understanding that they are the major investor in Meghan's As Ever products. And if that's the case, and those numbers that are lingering around the internet about how much product she has available are accurate, I'd say that that should be a legitimate concern.
Exactly right. And what about this talk that Meghan may be having another kid? There has been reports in America that
there's no way Meghan would do that. If she were to, no, I mean, this is such a silly conversation.
Yeah.
If Meghan were to do that, I think she'd have to go via surrogacy, and if she went via surrogacy, Meghan was in the geriatric phase back in with Archie, geriatric pregnancy phase.
Yeah, that's true.
If she were to have a third child at this age, she's 44 years old, I think she would need a surrogate. She also lost a child before Lily, and if she has a child through a surrogate, then that child is not in the line of succession, and that would be a nightmare. I just don't think that she would do that.
So it's just there's been a couple of reports, as you well know.
We've had these stories this week bubbling around that King Charles is desperate for his darling boy to return, and that he sees Catherine as the go-between who can heal the rift between the Sussexes and the Windsors. Are you suggesting that this may be fake news from Montecito, California, and Harry and Meghan?
I'm trying to get it confirmed that it's not true. I can't believe that a man of his sensibility and knowledge will take someone who is so kind and good and clever, and the heir's wife. He's supposed to not get on with William either. I found out a couple of weeks ago that he gets on very well with William, so that's made me very suspicious. But the other thing is that I can't understand he would go for somebody like Harry, who has not apologised, who has not tried to fit in with anything. Meghan said she hates this country. She'll never come back, but now she seems to be wanting to come back. And there's this strange feeling that they want it either for money or they want to make sure that they have royal positions before the king dies, because William's not going to do it. But it has a sort of very, very hot feeling about it, and I don't think that it's really true.
So this idea that the king is furious with William about Harry, does that strike you as a sort of a toxic misinformation pumped out by those close to the Sussexes? Because this effort to drive a wedge between William and his father is a bit of an old chestnut that we've seen from the couple in the past.
Yes, it is an old chestnut, and the king has a very close relationship with William. They do things together, they agree with a lot of things about nature and all that's important to him.
And William's taken over Earthshot, which is, you know, a cause close to Charles's heart.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think they said, oh, they those two, William and Catherine, didn't go to the showing last night. Well, I don't think that means that they're having a big row. William might have had it before, and he might be doing something entirely different. I think there's a number of people who are bouncing on it to make William look awful, Harry look wonderful. Meghan, you've got to understand that she needs a lot of caring. You know, it's just so wrong. It just doesn't work. And Meghan gets worse and worse when you see her in the things that she's doing and how she behaves. She couldn't care less about anyone, and I don't think that that's right. I might be wrong because I can't get anyone saying yes or no, but I'm sure that it doesn't work.
Meghan Markle is a very driven and ambitious person. What do you think her goals are in relation to the royal family? What is the end game, do you think?
Well, the end game is that she's queen. That's it.
Are you serious?
Of course I am.
Meghan Markle wants to be Queen of the United Kingdom.
Yes, I've said this several times. The king will be king, and he will have Meghan as queen. In other words, Meghan will run the country. He said things like this a long time ago. He feels that she's incredibly clever, wonderfully bright. And when she joined, apparently she thought that she and the Queen would go out together several times, and she would tell the Queen lots of good modern things that she should be doing. When she found that didn't happen, she's been spiteful and unkind and resentful ever since.
Well, that is an extraordinary claim that she wants to be queen. What is the idea that William and Catherine would relinquish the throne for some trumped-up reason cooked up by the Sussexes?
Well, yes, once the king dies, William, he will be nagged and they will be nasty about everything they say, and so they can get rid of him. And if they make Catherine ill again, because a lot of stress can do that, I'm being very, very honest here, that they would make him feel that he needs to look after her, not be king.
So what you do is you cause Catherine's life such a misery with negative headlines that she decides, listen, I'm not well, I'm exhausted, I'm stressed, I've only just overcome cancer. I don't need this, I don't want to be queen, at which point make way for King Harry and Queen Meghan.
Yeah, Catherine does want to be queen, but it just, if it's too hard or she's not well, she can't. Now, the difference is, the block is that Prince George is next in line. And I didn't know whether William was bringing him in now just so that he could be there with somebody in the future who looks after him, or this is just a normal thing that when a child is 12, you start showing them how to be royals in a small way. It's very difficult. I don't know quite what the background is, but I do know that Harry wants to destroy the royal family.
My goodness, that's an extraordinary claim. And can I ask you, is there a danger that Harry will taint the legacy of King Charles as the monarch of this country? Is there a danger that everything Charles tries to do as king will be overshadowed by his row with his runaway son?
Yeah. Yes, that's why it doesn't make any sense to me, because I can't see how the king would want someone who would really be very critical of him, be unkind, won't listen. Can you imagine Harry coming in and doing what he's told, given the things that he should be and how? I mean, that's what the Queen said, not half one step in and one step out. What Harry is after is one step in and one step out, because if they get the royals for them, Meghan's got a royal, and a very big royal, and she will get more money. But she might even go off and find a billionaire. Rather, she was very disappointed Harry was only a millionaire. And so, but that's correct what the plan is.
Powerful stuff. Angela, thank you so much for your time. Look forward to catching up with you again in the near future. Royal biographer Angela Levin, who says Meghan wants to be queen and that Harry wants to destroy the royal family.
Now, I want to talk to you about Prince Andrew, or the former Prince Andrew, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor as he is now. But let me ask you this first. I thought it was a very strange chronology in Prince Harry's life. That last week, there he is sitting in a court blubbing about how the press are so terrible to his wife. They've made my wife's life a misery, which had nothing to do with the case at hand. But there he was talking about the press and privacy and our right to privacy and isn't it awful, the media? And then he hops straight on an aeroplane, effectively flies to Park City in Utah, where they have the Sundance Film Festival, whereupon he courts the media and the press to publicise his and Meghan's new movie called Cookie Queens, which is about Girl Scouts. Strange. 1 week, oh, the press is so terrible, I get no privacy. Days later, flies to America saying, give me publicity. You know, I'm here to promote this film. Publicity. This man is a mass of contradictions, isn't he?
Yeah, but he does what his wife wants him to do. So, you know, she wants him to help the public buy things or look at things or decide on things. Then, you know, she's happy and he's desperately keen to keep her happy all the time. So that's why, really. And I imagine it's a very long way to come back. And he just didn't necessarily sleep, but he would be there in time. She didn't actually, if you'd watched to see how the people who were doing this Sundance element, that the woman who was doing it didn't want to get anywhere near Meghan. She didn't let her hold her hand, but she put her arm around Harry. So Meghan gets Harry because it gets her more people. She's not popular. We've seen that. She's getting less and less popular. So she now wants Harry near her, and so that he can do the things that will get more people and therefore more money.
Yeah, so Harry, as I say, the chronology in his life is 1 week in court, sobbing about how terrible the press are to his wife, sobbing about demanding his right to privacy, the awful media preying on his privacy, gets on an aeroplane, a couple of days later, there he is, courting publicity, demanding publicity. I'm Prince Harry, here's my movie. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but then again, his life doesn't make a lot of sense. So from one royal pariah to the next, we talk of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, constantly being seen riding around Windsor Great Park on his horse. He puts on his little hat and he looks a picture of misery. But what I thought was interesting, this most recent outing, which I think was yesterday, was that we were told that both Princess Bee and Princess Eugenie had sort of kind of severed ties with their disgraced father, and yet yesterday Princess Bee was riding along with him. So a devoted daughter still showing loyalty to the most disgraced man in Britain.
Yes, well, I think it was Christmas time. They didn't actually see him. They were drawn between the king and his family there, or rather than their father. And that's why neither of them saw him. But there were rumours that two of them had gone to see him. Now, Beatrice is very fond of her father. And
someone's got to be, I suppose.
Yeah, and she's always known as someone who's got very good common sense. And she tried to stop him having the BBC interview in 2019 when he fell out and he thought he was talking very well about all the people he went to see, and everybody was absolutely appalled by him. But she was there because he's been very miserable, and she goes and looks after him, tries to cheer him up, took their little 4-year-old, her little 4-year-old, and they went for a short drive. But he won't be able to do that much longer because he will have moved out by the middle of February. So he's just enjoying that as much as he can. And it's just a daughter who feels, he's done terrible things, but I'm his daughter and he's my father. And Eugenie, where they said she wanted absolutely nothing to do with him, that's not right. She has been to see him, but she doesn't want a whole fuss and to just pop round to see. He's not in a very good state. He's from 30 bedrooms down to 5, and it's a very small space. And he needs his family. His ex-wife no longer wants wants to have anything to do with him either. He's let her down. So, you know, he does want somebody they call Daddy's girl.
So Fergie, Sarah Ferguson, ex-wife,
Yes.
as you say, they had this weird arrangement where, you know, they call themselves the most happily divorced couple in Britain. So they shared the Royal Lodge.
Yes.
As you say, he's getting kicked out of there next month, making his way to that reduced circumstance cottage in Sandringham up in Norfolk. Only 5 bedrooms. Poor guy, how will he cope? What's happened to Fergie? Where's she gone?
She's gone far away. We don't know quite where. Eugene suggested that she came to live with them because they have a home in the
Portugal, isn't it?
Portugal,
Yeah.
that's right. And she didn't want to do that. I think she didn't want to be a granny, you know, and look after the small 2 little boys and not have much fun for herself. So she's happy to see them, but she doesn't want to be the grandma at home, and we don't know where she's going. She wants to be somewhere abroad. She might go to America. She's debating whether to talk and give a big sort of story about herself, and people are trying to persuade her not to do that. It won't go down very well with the king. And on the other hand, she was trying to get some television because she had a book that she wrote and the publisher refused to take it because you don't want to give a child a book about children with the writer who's actually been not very good herself, and also with a husband who's been very ungood.
Well, her continued friendship with a convicted paedophile, a child sex abuser, Jeffrey Epstein, that does not make her an ideal children's author, does it?
Exactly. So all of them have been stopped, and one which was coming out just around Christmas, that was finished altogether. So she's not making any money. But I think if she doesn't get any money, she will give a talk about her life and what's gone on. But I think it's a big mistake. That would be a big mistake.
Yeah, but then again, her life has been full of big mistakes, hasn't it? Arguably marrying Andrew in the first place, but that's another issue. Just the one last question, Angela. Going back to Harry, I mean, from observing his life, it seems to be there's nothing going on. It's empty, isn't it? You know, so was it last month or was it the month before? You know, he suddenly flew up to Canada to address an audience full of estate agents, or real estaters as they call them over there, just for money. You know, he's come over to pursue the latest of his strange cases against the media. That seems to be his big obsession, this, dragon slayer taking on the mighty media, positioning himself as some kind of hero in a battle, in a war that he doesn't realise he will never win, but on he goes. Apart from that, you know, OK, Meghan, for all her faults, and let's face it, there are many, I mean, she does keep busy, screwing everything up, her useless as ever business and this movie and her failed podcast. I mean, she never gives up, old Meg. But Harry, what's he doing? Anything?
Well, he looks after the kids a bit.
Oh, well, that's good.
And I think that's about it. He was working, helping people with mental health issues, but I think that's stopped now. But he doesn't know what to do with himself. That's why, 1, he wants to come back to the UK. 2, he wants his father to give him some work to do. And he wants his father to give him money. And he's working a lot to do with Olympics Games, and that's next year.
You mean the Invictus Games? Yeah.
Invictus Games, sorry, yes.
Yeah.
And
that's not a full-time. That's not a full-time job, Angela, as you well know. This guy has a very empty life.
He has, and he's very unhappy.
Yeah, exactly right. So we'll chart his progress. We wish him well, and we don't want him to be unhappy, but he certainly is. That's why, by the way, when he turned up to court last week. He looked about 50 years older than the last time I've seen him. He can't hang on to those few strands of ginger hair that he scrapes across his bald pate for much longer, covered in wrinkles. He looks ancient. He's got the
He looks
weight.
20 years older, doesn't he?
Really does. He's 41. He looks 61. So he needs to be happy, because when you're miserable, it's very aging. I'm here to tell you.
A nice little 2026 perk to see so much Catherine in her beautiful, what do you call that pattern? I can't believe I'm spacing.
Tweed?
I'm a girl. Not tweed. It's the Scottish pattern.
Tartan.
Her
Tartan.
beautiful tartan. Oh my gosh, she looks gorgeous. She's like, she knows that pattern was made for her.
Well, and she goes up there as the Duchess of Rothesay, because that's the name that they have when they're on Scottish visit. But obviously we'll stick to the Princess of Wales to try and not confuse people if they don't know why we're suddenly mentioning the Duchess of Rothesay. But they were in Scotland. Interestingly, again, sort of around the same time as Harry was coming in and out of court. So again, struggling perhaps to get all the publicity. But I think we're going on to fashion, but as you know, I'm a real fashionista and I've got my finger on the pulse, but it does actually show what a significant influence she is with regard to the British fashion industry, so that anything she does, we know what she's wearing, and her involvement with the Scottish designers is also a very important part of her work, and to be seen in a smart tartan coat, I think it was. Is that right?
Yeah, that she customized. She helped design that coat. Yeah.
So watch out, Posh Spice. Here comes the real one. But the Princess of Wales, no, she knows what works for her, and in terms of her look, and the tartan thing is not a bad one anyway.
Let's talk about some important stories that came out of the Prince and Princess of Wales's office over the week. I'm genuinely horrified. Prince and Princess of Wales install this new gadget to catch microfibers in their home. And what I was surprised by was it's not just in their home, it's throughout multiple properties that the Crown Estate owns. Prince William revealed that he and the Princess of Wales have installed a microplastic filter on their home washing machine after learning about the technology during a visit to Bristol. The device, created by Earthshot Prize finalist Matter, is designed to stop microplastics from entering waterways and oceans. Thank you for saving my whales and dolphins, Prince William. Speaking of real ones, he praised the invention as pioneering for global use and said he was horrified by the amount of waste it captures. Matter founder Adam Root, this is interesting, confirmed that the Prince and Princess requested the filter be installed in their own home and insisted on paying full price. They don't like freebies like the other pair, okay? Adding that the technology is also fitted in larger royal residences, including Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace. I mean, this is a man putting his money where his mouth is. To see the way that he nurtures these Earthshot products and inventions is really inspiring. He truly believes in them. I love your podcast.
Oh, I'm delighted to hear that. Thank you, Kinsey.
Now, the one that I, of course, fell in love with and inspired this conversation is you did an unbelievable deep dive of some of Prince Harry's legal drama. And it's so funny because you tell this story about how we hadn't seen really a royal take the stand since 18 something, but it feels like thanks to Prince Harry, we're seeing royals in the High Court much more often, huh?
Well, it's really unprecedented, except once, which is that in 1891, in an enormous scandal at the time, wonderful case, called the Royal Baccarat Scandal. In those days, gambling, incredibly, was illegal in the United Kingdom. But of course, the royal family and the aristocracy generally gambled to their heart's content at these wonderful country house weekend parties, like you see now in Downton Abbey, pretty accurately portrayed. And the Prince of Wales, who was the son of Queen Victoria and later became King Edward VII, and he was quite a playboy, to put it kindly. and he was gambling at the baccarat table at a country house weekend in Yorkshire. And he accused another player who was a high-ranking colonel in the army, in a wonderful regiment, the Scots Guards. He accused him of cheating. And this was just an incredible scandal. And somebody threw the card table over, and it ended with them getting this guy to sign a document on the spot saying he would never play cards again, and then they wouldn't ruin him in high society. But somebody leaked it. So this army officer felt he had no option but to sue for defamation. And he subpoenaed the Prince of Wales to be a witness. So the Prince of Wales had no choice but to come. And I can't tell you, this was the great scandal of the decade in about 1891. So that was the only previous time that a royal gave evidence. And of course, the judge told the jury, how can you possibly disbelieve this upstanding member of the royal family? And the jury took 7 minutes to find against the army officer, considered one of the most biased summing ups that there have ever been in an English trial by the then Lord Chief Justice. So you have to wait until Harry in 2023 gave evidence against the Mirror Group in a case that he won, of course, and won quite resoundingly, for breach of his privacy, because the rule has always been, as you well know, in the British royal family, never complain, never explain. And of course, the great exponent of that was the late Queen Elizabeth, Harry's grandma. And she must be not turning in her grave, but spinning in her grave if she could see what's going on now.
You talk about how Harry has really great counsel, because sometimes he goes all in and sometimes he pumps the brakes and he realizes that there's more to lose in a scenario. Does he stick with the same counsel? Have you noticed that he continues to work with the same people? Is he confident in them, or is it based on each one of these individual cases that he works with new people?
Well, he has a barrister called David Sherborne, who I reckon is a very bright boy, very dynamic. And he wasn't terribly well known until apparently he met Harry at a party in the south of France, hosted by Elton John and his husband, David Furnish. What do you know? And Elton John sort of made the marriage between these two, and Harry complained to him of all the breaches of privacy by the press. And this boy apparently said, well, come to me, I can advise you and we can do something about this. And by heavens, it's led to a long journey. And I think Sherborne is very clever. He knows when to fight and he knows when to settle. And he even knows when to drop hands. And there's been examples of that too in this, I don't know, it's now a 5-6 year saga. It's a crusade, as you might call it, of Harry's litigation against the English press, determined to establish that they're not allowed to pry into his private life the way they've been doing ever since Diana died, at least.
And that's so interesting to me, because I think, having studied so much about Diana's life, that there was a real pivot from the British press after the loss of Diana. I mean, I know that they let the boys go off and go to school and didn't hassle the boys when they went to university. But with Harry, he's a unique case because he did put on a Nazi costume. Harry, in my opinion, is the perpetual victim, and he attracts a lot of the negative attention he receives himself. Am I right in my understanding that there was a positive shift in the media after the death of Diana? They gave the family a little bit of space.
Yes, I think definitely. But for a time, everyone in the country, really, I mean, even somebody as, how shall we put it, experienced and cynical as me, as a trial lawyer, and I went out into the street to pay my respects as her coffin drove past. It went, halfway across the country, this black hearse in a cortege, and even I did it. And everyone was doing it. It was an extraordinary time. And for, I think, a year or two after that, the press did leave the boys alone, no question about it. And there were one or two staged photographic shoots, for example, when the now King Charles, when Prince Charles would take them skiing in Switzerland, and there'd be a photographic shoot at the beginning of the holiday, but then they would leave them completely alone to ski. But of course, then Harry grew up and William grew up, and things and of course, Harry, since his engagement and marriage to Meghan, who is, in my view, the great publicist of all time. I mean, you have to admire Meghan, a girl who's pulled herself by her bootstraps up from absolutely nothing. And look at her today. I mean, she is a brilliant manipulator of publicity and the press. So I think he's going home every day to a masterclass from her. And I've no doubt she is the person advising him most closely. So really, he's brought on himself, as you've indicated, so much of the publicity of which he complains.
There's nothing about, I just truly do not get the appeal with Meghan Markle at all. I don't see how some people are out there fighting tooth and nail for her success. And she doesn't bring that energy to me in any way where I'm like, oh, I'm dying to continue to watch her.
You know how she does it. She's got the Taylor Swift method where she's cultivated an audience through being the victim. She's cultivated the audience through always having an enemy somewhere. Whether it's me or the British royal family or Netflix, Netflix is afraid to formally announce any sort of cancellation because they don't want the backlash the way that Bill Simmons and Spotify got the backlash when they spoke out about their lack of work ethic and silly decisions. So there's always an enemy. And I think that that's how she continues to cultivate and keep her audience engaged, similar to Swift. Can you talk to me about your candle?
Oh, yes. I really wanted to bring this to the people. So I have a listener who has a family member that was working at Netflix for many, many years and just left. And I was gifted this gorgeous, as ever, candle.
She's being sarcastic when she says gorgeous.
Yeah. By the way, if this didn't come with a box that said as ever, I would have thought we got it at the gas station. Let me show it to you. Okay. It's water lotus, sandalwood, and California poppy. How much do you think these retail for?
I think that they're between $45 and $60. I can't remember. I think they're $60.
There's no wick. Is that normal?
Are you serious?
Is that the thing?
There's no wick. I've had two people tell me that there was no wick when they ordered a candle.
There's literally no wick.
Are you kidding?
I have an empty wickless. How do I light it? I literally just noticed that. I just pulled it out. There is a hole in my Meghan Markle candle.
So here's the thing. When Donna told me that she had this candle, I was like, let's talk about the candle. But I really felt like the story was that Netflix had extra swag and they were shoving it off on people leaving. Like
literally, she was given a ton of Meghan Markle swag.
And the actual story here is that another freaking wickless candle exists.
And it says on the bottom, always trim wick to 1/4. Da, da, da. So this is not intentional. I thought this was like a thing she does.
No. This is insane.
There's no wick.
This is why like everything's crap, because nobody is doing their due diligence.
Oh my God. I can't wait to talk about this more on my show. This is funny. This is amazing. I'm going to say something. I want Meghan Markle to send me a wick. Can I respond? Can I message? Is there customer service anywhere?
There is customer service, but they're going to be like, can we have your order number? And you're going to be like, this was put in a trash bag full of swag as my girlfriend was leaving Netflix. Let me see how much this candle is.
I mean, technically.
By the way, I bought the URL aseversucks.com.
Stop.
It's asever.sucks. No, it's asever.sucks. I bought asever.sucks.
Can I be the first post on it talking about this?
Yes. And they told me it's up for renewal and they want some ungodly $64 for your wickless candle.
That's crazy.
$64 for your wickless candle.
Oh my God.
No wonder Netflix is like, you are the plague. We have got to get away from you. The long arc of this so-called scandal, the timeline of the king's environmental work, the criticism he faced for it, and how the man once laughed out of the room was decades ahead of everyone else. You have been you're an insider. You've seen this evolution. Do you sit back and look at a documentary like this and go, it's about time?
Well, yes, but it should be noted that this is the third of these documentaries that he's done, and I really hope that this one sticks. I mean, he did a documentary as long ago as 1990 called The Earth in Balance, and he interviewed Al Gore. And then, what do you know? 2 years later, Al Gore did his book called Earth in the Balance, and Prince Charles later joked about that.
Yeah, you think he might have inspired it a little bit?
And then, of course, Al Gore went on in 2006 to do An Inconvenient Truth, which was a huge hit, got an Oscar, and won the Nobel Peace Prize. And then in 2010 is when Charles really did the sort of baseline documentary that this Amazon documentary sort of follows up on, and that was called Harmony. And it had a companion book called Harmony. Here it is. It's huge. I've read the whole thing, cover to cover.
Wow.
We can talk about that later if you want. But it just didn't, neither the documentary nor the book really landed. Part of the problem was the Harmony documentary involved an interview with Charles by Brian Williams, who mischievously, this was a time when Camilla was, everybody said Camilla was going to be the prince's consort when he became king. And Brian Williams said, well, what about it? And Charles said, well, we'll just have to see. And of course, all the headlines after that were, will Camilla be queen? And poor Charles, because the substance of the documentary, which was really very good, it focused on people who were actually trying to do things, logging companies that were working on, reducing, mitigating the way they cut down their timber. A farmer in Louisiana who had adopted organic principles. These were all, it was a good movie. And it just got sort of swept away. Charles tried again in 2012 by premiering it at London Sundance with Robert Redford, but it didn't work there either. And the book, which is, it's admirable in many ways, and it tries to pull together Charles's multitude, really, of theories about the environment and the interconnectedness of everything, and the importance of ancient wisdom and all that. But it is sort of too convoluted, too complicated. It would have been much better if it had been simpler.
Nature for dummies. Nature for dummies, not so heavy.
Yeah. Oh, he did a children's book too.
Oh.
He was really trying to get his ideas across, but I think in the end it was just too dense, too complex. So what I'm hoping is that this movie will do a couple of things. It will get these ideas to a new audience on Amazon, and it will sort of help him rebrand his reign and reboot a lot of these ideas that he has held passionately. I called my book The Passions and Paradoxes. He is passionate about every idea that he advocates. And so it'll be great. I want to see it. I'm very curious about it. And I think, we can only hope that it will reach a new audience, and it will reframe a lot of these ideas in a way that will be more accessible to people.